I know a lot of people watching this video right now are currently in high school or maybe even college, and you have all of your highlights on your desktop. You're about ready to send them off to Perfect Game or maybe even a Philly scout or an Angel scout because you want them to grade how good you are as a prospect. And you know what? It goes the same for Major League Baseball superstars that are currently playing. They once upon a time had a scouting report, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys. The scouting report for Aaron Judge single-handedly, it made my jaw drop. They thought this guy was going to be a scrub. So make sure you guys watch all the way until the end. We have Cody Bellinger, Mookie Betts, Mike Trout. Mike Trout is another crazy one. Also, Bryce Harper is sprinkled in between. We're mostly going to be talking about hitters, but I think today is an awesome video. If you guys have not subscribed, make sure you guys do that because we post baseball content every single day. Leave a like if you want to see more baseball videos. And I guess without further ado, the first player that I want to start with is Derek Jeter. And I want to go ahead and start with him simply because he's an easy example to show kind of the grades that these scouts use. So if you take a look right now, this is probably the most famous scouting report of all time. Derek Jeter out of Kalamazoo High School in Michigan. Now he was graded at a 64. So there's two different grades. There's 2 through 8. So if you're a 2 prospect, that means you're not very good. But if you're all the way at 8, you are an outstanding Hall of Fame level prospect. They're projecting you to be a perennial all-star. So that's the first grade, 2 through 8, and then the second one is what they gave Derek Jeter on a scale from 20 to 80. If you have 80 grade speed, you're Jose Reyes. If you have 80 grade power, you're Pete Alonso. But let's say you have 50 power, you're kind of like Michael Brantley. So make sure you guys pay attention to that. Derek Jeter he was ranked at a 64 overall, so everyone knew that he was going to be a perennial all-star. And if we take a look at his hitting ability, 30, power 30, running speed 70, so he was really fast in high school, and you guys can see the rest of it now. I'm not going to read all of this because I'm not going to lie to you guys, this scout seemed to be in a hurry. I can't read cursive all too well. Like I've been practicing all my life because my grandparents, whenever they give me a birthday card or a Christmas card, it's in cursive, but you guys can go ahead and take a look right there. Derek Jeter, Kalamazoo, Michigan. When was this? When was the date? 1992, April 8th, 1992. The scout was D. Grouch. I think somewhere he said he's a future MLB star. He called him a Yankee, so he knew that he was going to draft him. Next up, I really want to talk about Bryce Harper simply because I'm a big Bryce Harper fan, and I want to see just how good the scouts were at predicting the future. So if you take a look at the graph, remember, it's on a scale from 2 to 8, 8 being the best, and 7 being an all-star type caliber player, 8 being you're going to be in the Hall of Fame. So his hitting ability was 4. This was at the time when he was a prospect. Remember that. This was back in 2000 and whenever, when he was still in high school. He was 16 years old. So his hitting ability was 4, but they predicted a 7 in the future. And it says wants to hit, gets bat head out front, drives to all fields. Power 5, future 7, can hit them far, run, production, and power. So they thought that he was going to project in the future as a 3-hitter, a 4-hitter, someone with raw power. Now his running speed pretty much stayed the same. A 4 back in high school, and then they predicted that he wasn't going to get any faster. Now, one thing I do want to note is down here where it says, hard to believe only 16, currently trying to do too much. This was the baseball instinct and honestly aggressiveness. It was at 8 out of 8. He exudes confidence, leadership obvious. I remember back in high school hearing him say that he wants to be better than Mickey Mantle. He wants to be the best player of all time. So if you didn't give him an 8 for aggressiveness, that's absolutely crazy. But for base running a 5, arm strength 6, arm accuracy 4, fielding 4, range 5, I mean, they pretty much kind of hit it on the head. But the future with hitting ability 7, power 7, I would say the power should be at like a 7 or 8. I would say hitting probably a 6 because he doesn't have a 300 batting average every single year. But so far, I would say they hit it right on the head with both Derek Jeter and Bryce Harper. What about Aaron Judge? Aaron Judge is a little bit of a different story. So I'm going to go all the way back to his high school days. Hitting ability, they gave him a 3. They pretty much thought that he was going to be Greg Allen. And I don't know why, but this one doesn't make sense either. Power of a 4. What? He was 6'7" in high school. He was on the football team. He was on the basketball team. I don't know why they gave him a 4. Running speed 5, base running 4, arm strength 4, arm accuracy 5, fielding 4. Now, they did give him pretty good future projections, but I think honestly hitting ability's got to be 6, power is 8, running speed is probably 4 or 5. His fielding has to be a 7 or an 8. His arm is a 7 or an 8. I mean, he really showcased his skills once he came to the Yankees. Maybe the strikeouts might put his hitting ability down to a 5 or whatever. But I think what's great about this one is if you look at his abilities, major league body with strength and athleticism, aggressive approach with good bat. They use a lot of like hyphenated words and a lot of shortened words, so I'll try my best to decipher this. Natural lift to swing. Can they really just spell things right? It makes it harder for creators 10 years later or whatever. But yeah, they didn't even include his power. They gave him a solid 4, which is not the case. I think that Aaron Judge so far is the worst scouting report. They got that completely wrong. Next up, we're going to go to Javier Baez. Now, we're probably going to go over this pretty quick, but the one thing I did want to note is down in the summation, if you guys can see it, fun to watch. I think that that is the exact way to describe Javier Baez. Now, his future grades were really good. I would say his running speed and his fielding probably are the only ones that are underrated. I think his hitting ability is fine, power is fine. His fielding and arm have to be at a 7 or 8. So Javier Baez, not the best, not the best. Moving on over to someone, we're going to talk about 2 young guns, Ronald Cunha Jr. So remember the scale, 20 to 80. For his hitting, they gave him contact of 50. So they said if there's any area of Acuna's game that could use some refinement, it's going to be pretty much keeping his bat through the zone as long as possible. So they gave him a contact of 50, which is still actually pretty good. Power is 60, eye is 60, base running is 60, defense is 55, arm is 55. And then they talked about his MLB player comparison. They called him the next Curtis Granderson, which is wild. Curtis Granderson, I think that Acuna is going to pass him just in terms of the ceiling of their talent. Acuna might be a 40-40 guy. His defense is getting better. He has a really good arm, amazing speed. I mean, honestly, they kind of got most of it right. I think the speed is a little bit underrated, but you guys can see there is time for you to improve. So if you don't get a bunch of D1 offers, so if you don't get a lot of this and that, I promise you, you have a little bit of wiggle room, especially with this quarantine. You have a bunch of time to put on weight, muscle, maybe work on your foot speed, work on your defensive abilities, because Acuna, as you can see, he was pretty much the perfect prospect. Everyone knew that he was going to be good. And now let's move on to Juan Soto. So I'm going to show you the full graph right now. Present, back when he was graded, they gave him a 45 hit. His game power was a 50, which is like crazy. So back in the day in high school, it wasn't the best, but they saw the potential. You can see a 45 present day, but in the future, it was going to be a 60. Game power 70, raw power 70, run 40. So I would say so far, Juan Soto is the perfect scouting report. They saw a superstar player in the making, but they gave him the proper grades back when he was in high school and back when he was coming into the league. So they thought he was going to be an all-star. They thought he was going to be a 70 grade overall player once he hit the big leagues, and they got that right. 100%. Cody Bellinger, ooh, this is his perfect game profile. Now, there's not a lot to see in terms of his 80 grade this or 70 grade this, but you can see that he's a 2013 graduate, so you know he's been in the league for quite some time. But his national ranking, he was the 93rd overall player, but his perfect game grade was a 10 out of 10. Now, if you compare that to Christian Yelich graduated in 2010, but his best perfect game grade was 9.5, even though he was ranked 30th overall. So I'm curious to know how many players were drafted from the 2013 class, because if Cody Bellinger was 93rd overall and the 5th rated first baseman, I'm curious to see who are the other players that were drafted that year, because Christian Yelich is 30th, but he had a 9.5. So they graded Bellinger higher, but he had a worse national ranking. So that's kind of crazy to say. Now, one thing I do want to show is when Christian Yelich was drafted, they graded his power anywhere from 45 to 55. You guys can see that. This is from an article from Baseball America. And then he actually said about scouts, that's the thing. I think people want to label you as what kind of player you're going to be and don't really think you can get any better. That's what he says. You can't get any worse. You can't get any better. This is what you are. And Christian Yelich he doesn't agree with that mindset, and it shows. He turned 45 grade power into 80 grade. One of the most prolific power hitters that we have in the game. Next up, Mookie Betts. I mean, if you take a look, there's so much to look at, but I'm going to go ahead and just go straight to the summation. So you guys can see his physical description, his hit, his power, his run. If you guys want to read that, you can pause the video. But they saw a potential roll 7 player. So roll 7 means on a scale from 2 to 8, he he was going to be a 7. So he was going to be a perennial frequent all-star, an impact player, top of the order profile with potential to hit 300 with 20 plus home runs, 30 plus stolen bases, elite makeup and work ethics. You're talking to a scout, you're going to see the word makeup somewhere in there. And the fact that the Boston Red Sox got him in the 5th round, that was a steal right there. Mookie Betts, he's going to be a Hall of Famer in my opinion. He has all the talent in the world. He hit .509 in high school with 30 stolen bases his senior year. Just an absolute insane player, and they got everything right. Plus the better speed, potential plus defender. I mean, the dude might win a platinum glove in his career. Next up, I thought this was fun. They called Nolan Arnout duck-footed. If you guys can see his running speed, he's duck-footed and lumbers. Base running, it's not part of his game. So they actually kind of went pretty hard on Nolan Arnout, and he was a catcher at this time. It even says right here, whether he can actually catch remains in the question. He sometimes inside outs the ball too often at the plate. So they're saying that he tries to go to the opposite field way too often, just like Derek Jeter did. But I think that Derek Jeter got away with it because he was so quick. But honestly, they did not hold anything back with Nolan Arnout. If you guys want to go ahead and pause it, I wouldn't blame you because there's a lot to look at. But again, Arnout proved the world wrong. He showed that he cannot be duck-footed. He has amazing footwork over there at third base, so he's not a catcher. And then this one was hilarious to me. Mike Trout, now this one's not, I don't think this one's real. This was an MLB The Show back in the day. This was an MLB The Show 2011. Overall C, contact F, power F, fielding C, speed B. So even they got that wrong, but that's the highest that he has, potential D. If he goes yard more than a half dozen times, be thankful. A competent defender, he can steal bases, could be a decent regular, nothing more. That could not be any more wrong, but if we go to his actual scouting report, we can see it right here. Back in 2008, they gave him a hitting ability of 4, power 3, running speed 6, base running 5. I mean, they pretty much got everything wrong. At least the future is a little bit better, but still, they rated him as a power of 4 for the future. Level stroke, not much loft, will be strong enough. Yeah, I think he's way more strong enough. Doesn't get cheated, eye for zone, hits ball hard. I mean, they definitely, Mike Trout. That's why he was drafted 26th or something like that. The GOAT. They missed out on the GOAT. Let's move on to Francisco Lindor, my favorite player currently playing. Now, it's pretty easy to describe Francisco Lindor. He wasn't the best hitter. So as evident, they gave him a 55 with hit, pretty much contact. They gave him a 40 power, running 55, arm 60. But where Francisco Lindor separated himself at the time from Javier Baez, Addison Russell, and Carlos Correa was the fielding. He was ranked at a 70 fielding, and we all know the storybook has been written. He is amazing. He can steal 30 bags. He can hit 30 plus home runs. He plays Gold Glove defense. Francisco Lindor shattered the mold with his scouting report. Next up, we have Josh Donaldson. Look at this. They disrespected my man's as well. Donaldson's arm was below average. Now you have to say below average in the context of he was a catcher. As you guys can see, catcher. So he went from a catcher to being one of the best third basemen in the league, won an MVP even. So I'm just, again, it goes to show you guys that you don't have to be the best at your position currently. You can make a position change. I mean, heck, Kenley Jansen, I'm not going to show any pictures today, but he was once upon a time a catcher as well, and he converted into one of the most dominant closers that we've ever seen. Now we have Alex Bregman. Now I'm not going to spend too much time. Hit 60, power 50, run 50, arm 55, field. So they gave him a 55 overall, which if you go back to the scale, anything below 60 is an average baseball player. Alex Bregman is not average. I know that he used trash cans, but you guys have to understand this dude, and he's an elite third baseman, had one of the all-time great seasons last year at the hot corner. Actually, I have one more player left. Can you believe that he's only 23? Back when Gleyber Torres was given his scouting report, his hitting contact was out 60, his power was 55, his eye was at 60, his base running was 55. Now, the craziest thing about Gleyber is they gave him a really, really good rating for his defense. Torres has tremendous hands at the position. He has seen his range decline some as he thickened his lower half, but he still has good hands that he projects as a shortstop. Now, that's the thing. Everything projected forward for Gleyber Torres. His hitting got better. I think his eye did suffer a little bit. He strikes out way too much. So if we're being honest, the player comparison at this point was to Carlos Correa. I think that he's a better hitter than Carlos Correa, but I think that we can all universally agree that Correa is leaps and bounds ahead of Gleyber Torres as a defender. So guys, guys, that's pretty much gonna do it for today's video. If you did enjoy, please go ahead and slap a like on this one. I had so much fun taking a look at Aaron Judge, the fact that they gave him a 4 power and then in the future gave him a 6. I don't understand what they were looking at. They really missed out. Anywhere from Christian Yelich having 45 power, he catapulted himself all the way to 80. So if you guys are down on yourselves, if you guys don't think that you can make it because of the scouting reports, I promise you, don't pay attention to them. You can grind and grind and grind, just like all of the guys on this list. I mean, really the only one that made sense was Cunha. They pretty much hit it right on the head. Same with Derek Jeter. Same with, I would say, Cody Bellinger had a pretty good grade as he was a perfect 10 out of 10. So thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.